Hello, and welcome to MrDudeManSir. There were some nerfs, and I am here to review them. There have been quite a lot of bad commotion about these nerfs, actually. Some people, such as myself actually, feel the majority of them are very warranted and very good nerfs. Though other people feel that some classes are going to die off, and are now terrible. And everyone basically, those certain people believe that, the nerfs that they've made are the typical Blizzard nerf of just making the card unusable. Which is untrue. So let's get into them. There's quite a few, but I don't think this video will go on for very long. So first is Knife Juggler. They changed the attack of 3-2 to 2-2. And you know what that means? Probably very little, actually. Maybe you'll want to hold this into your hand before and until you summon a minion now, instead of just playing it on turn 2, just in case he plays a 2-3. But even if he does play a 2-3, you'll play another minion and hope it attacks into the, it throws a knife into the 2-3 and then it's a 2-2. Or maybe if you have some sort of removal. But anyways, this card is still good. It's to be played in Zoo, especially with the card that was reviewed today, that summons a bunch of 1-1 tentacles for Zoo. Yeah, I can see this card still being ran. It's not that big of a deal, even though some people think it is. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Next we have Leopard Gnome. The attack change has been changed from 2 to 1. Now that is a significant deal over the Death Rattle being changed to Death Rattle deal 1 damage to the enemy hero. This card is basically now unplayable. Because how this works is you play this on turn 1, and it exponentially not exponentially, it just keeps gradually getting damage. So, turn 1 you play it, you hit him in the face for 2, you hit him in the face for 4, and then maybe it'll die and then deal 6 damage. How it'll work now is you play it, you'll deal 1 damage to the hero, you'll deal another 1, and then it dies and will deal another 2. So that's a total of 4 after the same amount of turns on the board. And if an enemy minion wants to trade into this, they'll be able to trade into it for free, basically, at any point in time. A 1 mana 1-1 dies to a lot of things. I don't see this card being played anymore. There's much better cards to be played in an aggro scenario. And it seems that Blizzard doesn't really like super hyper aggressive decks anymore. Good on them. Next card is another super hyper aggressive card known as Arcane Golem, though I actually disagree with this card quite a bit. Now this is probably the worst card in Hearthstone. I will say that right now. This is probably the worst card ever created in Hearthstone. No one will ever want to touch this card. Ever. They changed it from basically 3 mana deal 4 damage to 3 mana 4-4 with a gigantic downside. There already was a 3 mana 4-4, the Dancing Swords, and it was terrible by Death Rattle drawing a card. If it were Battlecry draw a card, it still would be better than Arcane Golem here, because it's basically giving your opponent a Wild Growth. And Wild Growth is a little bit broken, because if you think about it, every turn until they reach 10 mana, that gains them a coin, basically. So you give them an Innervate, and if say you play this on turn 3, you give them 7 mana with this Battlecry to work with, or 6 mana, something around there. That's just way dumb. This could have been a 3 mana 5-4, or 3 mana 5-5, and it still probably wouldn't see play. Though this is just terrible. Get ready to milk your 100 dust out of this thing. Molten Giant got nerfed. I expected Molten Giant to get nerfed. 25? It's actually pretty fine. I was expecting it to be, 23? Actually, what I was expecting it to be, or wanting it to be, is I was wanting it to be, 50, but they would change the card text to cost 1 less for each damage your hero has taken this game. So, only control decks could play it. It would basically make people play healing, Though, then again, there's not that much healing in the game aside from Priest now, with Healbot removed. So, I mean, this is probably a good change. I will be disenchanting, well, basically every single one of these cards is getting nerfed, because of the fact that you'll be able to, if you decide to get it again, it'll cost you nothing. No investment needed. But it'll probably only see play in Handlock if it sees play. If there's, like, 5 damage burst in the game, this card will not see play. Though it's a fair nerf. Master of Disguise, there's not really much to say. They nerfed a card that never saw play, so that they will be able to make better cards in Rogue to see play. That's basically the gist of it. And that's the same thing with another card that has brought basically the most commotion out of anything in the entire world, and I'll get to that hopefully next. And it is next. So, Blade Flurry has been nerfed significantly. They have doubled the mana cost and made the damage only attack minions. This means a lot of things. For one, Oil Rogue is dead, mostly because Oil's gone. 2, Miracle Rogue that people thought were going to work is now going to be wildly too inconsistent without the extra burst damage, so that's basically gone. So that's fine, because they wanted burst to be gone anyways. The purpose of this nerf is so that they can print better weapons, and because it doesn't fit into the current archetype of Rogue that they are pushing, which is sort of the Death Rattle, efficient removal tempo, N'Zoth deck sort of thing, I guess. But definitely Death Rattle themes. Blade Flurry is no longer an instant 2-of that carries a deck anymore. It is now, if you run Assassin's Blade with maybe 1 weapon buff, after it's done, you can deal like 5 to 7 damage to everything for 4 mana. Now that's pretty good. It's still really good. I think this may still see play as 1-of, though 2-ofs, it is very inconsistent. People think that this card is completely dead. It is the biggest hit to basically any class ever. I do not think so. People think that Rogue will never see play. I think it will, with a new archetype. This card is... I never really liked this card, and I will continue to not like it even in the nerf. I like it better now, though, with the, it's more of board clear now. So, Ancient of Lore. Probably number 2 on my list to get nerfed, because I really, really hate this card. It used to be, if you take the body as a 5/5 being a card, it used to be 7 mana 5/5, play 2 Arcane Intellects, or like an Arcane Intellect and a half. And that's it's broken a bit. It's really broken. Because it creates so much consistency with their combo that they just always have it. And if they don't, they play this card, they get a 5/5 threat on the board, which control decks have to deal with because they're probably low on health, and they get more fuel to back it up. So now they changed it to choose 1, draw a card. Just 1 card. And I think that's balanced. I think it'll still see play? Maybe. Though definitely not quite, like, as much. Maybe in a just, like, people run Azure Drake, right? Azure Drake, you pay a mana and a half to draw a card. Because 5 mana 4/4 isn't that good. In this, you pay, 2.5 mana. You draw a card, or you get the flexibility of restoring health. And it also has synergy with the new Druid card. Most choose ones do. That way you get to restore 5 health and draw a card. Well, I'm not sure. I'm sure it would have been cool if they nerfed it, but then upgraded the heal to back to 8 health as it used to be. But anyways, I'm still gonna be milking this card out for its 800 dust. It nearly won't see any play, and I'm happy for that. So here we have Force of Nature being changed. I like it. I really, really hate Force of Nature Savage Roar, and I was on the boat that Force of Nature was the one that was broken. Because without Force of Nature, you actually have to have a board before killing your opponent. You know what that means? It means playing sticky minions and actually knowing what you're doing instead of dealing like 22 damage in 1 turn. This combo used to be so broken. It was literally the cancer of Hearthstone. I feel that Druid was the most broken class, and I still feel that way currently. Well, like, before these nerfs, that it is, in fact, the most broken thing ever. And the reason is because it kills aggressive decks because they can just play swipe, and it just completely destroys aggressive decks. They kill mid-range by, just out-mid-ranging them, drawing cards, killing them with combo. And against control, which I play the majority of the time, if they realize you're playing control and they do not feel threatened at any point in the game, which is generally how druids will play it, they'll just play a bunch of big minions and make you deal with them, they'll just save up combo, and then they'll play Emperor Thorson. And then if he gets one minion to stick, such as his Shade, you'll be dead from 30 health. The only way you actually get to counter this is by playing Ice Block and Reno Jackson, which is what inspired my Reno Mage, and I still sometimes lose against druids with that. But this new nerf now makes them to summon 2/2 treants that do not die at the end of your turn, but they do no longer have charge. And it's 5 mana. I think this is actually pretty good. It's 5 mana 6/6, but not quite as good because of AoE purposes, which is very common. They consecrate, Lightning Storm, Holy Nova, and such. Though it's 5 mana, it gets pretty good value if you're playing like actually aggressive druid. I see Force of Nature still being played. Yeah. I like it. I have a golden Force of Nature I got from the loot box last season, and so I'll be milking it for 1,600 dust. Legendary City, here we come. Next we have a card that I never really liked. I never liked putting it into my decks, but you had to anyways, because it's a 4 mana 2/4. I really, for the longest time, and I still believe it's mediocre, but just because of the effect, you had to put it in your deck. That Keeper of the Grove here. 4 mana 2/4, deal 2 damage, which I always thought was pretty bad. Which it is for the mana cost. Or silence a minion. Yeah. Before the hyper-aggressive just basically get on the board and any attack doesn't matter, it gets buffed anyways, started happening, I never liked this card. And I never really played it. But nowadays, and basically before, and even when I thought it was bad, everyone put it as a 2-of in their deck, because the silence is OP, and if they didn't need the silence, they could just deal 2 damage to whatever they wanted to. So Blizzard completely destroyed the card. They made it have 2 less health, so now it dies to a lot of things. It dies to, of course, the 2 damage AoE that I mentioned previously. It dies to a 2 mana 2/3. Instead of being able to kill 2/2 drops, they die straight to 1. I really don't care about this nerf. I never wanted to play this card. Though I know a lot of people are very sad about it. I can see that, because now your deck will have 2 less cards that you need to fill in instead. But that's pretty good for the game, you know? Druids are trying to be pushed in a different direction. And say if you already have 20 cards that you want to auto-fill into your deck, you only have 10 cards out of this expansion that make your theme whatever you want. So that's not really enough to make it, you know? So nerfing this card makes it to where basically Blizzard decided for you that you don't want to put Lore or Keeper of the Grove in your deck anymore. And that balances out Druid. Here we have another silence being nerfed. We have Ironbeak Owl now as costing 3 mana. Now when you think about this, and now Keeper of the Grove, you think of Spellbreaker. It's a 4 mana 4/3. You pay 1 extra mana, you get +2/+2. Why would you just not play Spellbreaker now? The only time you will see Ironbeak Owl is after you get Infest, or like some other random generating beast, such as Tomb Spider, and you need for lethal, but otherwise, it's probably just best to disenchant the 50 dust while you can. But at 2 mana, Ironbeak Owl silence taunts. It just basically undermines the word taunt if you only ran like Sludge Belchers, or like other, like, if you ran Sludge Belchers, it was basically a 5 mana 3/5. And if you played some other sort of taunt, then they just silence that as well. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this nerf. I figured it was gonna happen because of the the pre-made decks that Blizzard have does not run Ironbeak Owl, they run Spellbreaker. Though it still makes me wonder why they thought that Keeper of the Grove was broken whenever Spellbreaker basically kills the Keeper of the Grove. It has 1 health, and then it has the same effect. But I guess that flexibility of having 2 damage, and the fact that it was ran in every single Druid deck, spurred Blizzard to do so. I don't really mind, I never liked Silence. I think there should be a way to remove Silence. Which sort of, in a way, now you can recombobulate or evolve stuff in Shaman, which is pretty cool. Next we have BGH. This was the #1 card I wanted nerfed. It is nerfed! It is still probably gonna be played as a 1-of. Maybe even a 2-of. Basically, Blizzard's thought, with the Silence and the BGH nerf, is that we want you to play class removal. And what that does is it makes classes have an identity. Like they used to. Like, most decks nowadays, a lot of common cards, like neutral cards, are very overpowered. Such as, if you play against a mid-range deck, you know they have Dr. Boom in their deck. Now, if you play against a rogue, they probably will run Assassinate over BGH. Maybe. They'll also have that 9-mana card that just, like, assassinates for you in a 4/4 and stuff like that. That's basically what I'm talking about, is instead of running BGH, you run that 9-mana 4/4 and just absorb these stats instead of just removing a 7-attack minion for 3 mana. 5 mana, you can think of it as if you are, say, trying to assassinate a Ragnaros, or if you're going to BGH a Ragnaros. The BGH has the upside as, if you have the met requirements, you get a 4/2. Though, say, if he has a Hogger, the new 6/6 Hogger, you can't BGH it, and now you can assassinate it. I think BGH will still see play. Of course, there's gonna be powerful old gods and big minions being played, though there is a giant downside for it now. Instead of being able to tempo out with 3-mana 4/2, you now have to tempo out a 5-mana 4/2. And that's pretty bad, because 2 health is pretty bad when you're behind, which you will be if you have to tempo BGH. I like this nerf. This is the definition of what a nerf should be. Because it's still playable. And fine. Though I'd much rather if BGH was just removed from the game. Here we have another removal. Hunter's Mark would be completely broken. People are like, yeah, we asked for Hunter's Mark to be broken. It doesn't matter if you asked for it, it's what we need to know. And Blizzard has been testing these new cards forever. And how amazing would it be if you just 0 mana deal like 22 damage to like a Cthulhu and then hit it with like a web spinner? How would that make you feel playing a Cthulhu deck? That would make you feel pretty bad. You'd still feel pretty bad if the Hunter marked your Cthulhu. But now they have to pay a mana for it. It's very small effect, really. But 0 mana. 0 mana was a little bit OP. And 1 mana still probably is a little bit OP. But not as much. It's a very small effect. It's still very playable. They'll probably see play as well. So, that's the nerfs. That's all the nerfs. Overall, I agree with them. I think that the Hunter's Mark one probably should have been changed a bit. I'm not sure exactly what would have been changed to. Though I still find it a little bit OP with those big minions going around. Though Hunter probably needs a little bit of love. So let them have it. It basically got the Soulfire treatment. Instead of being 0 mana deal 4, it's now 1 mana deal 4. I'm overall happy. I think they could have made Arcane Golem much better than what it is. Like, they're fine with printing 3 mana 5/5s if the downside to such a thing is very, very bad. And that's what Arcane Golem is. Though, every other nerf, other than Keeper of the Grove, which I think they probably should have changed a bit more, is fine. I like it. I hope you found this video educational. And if you have your own views on such as Druid is now no longer gonna see play, Rogue is now no longer gonna see play, oh my gosh, Hunter's Mark, Hunter's no longer gonna see play, which isn't anyone's saying. Or if you have something to say like, oh my gosh, Blade Flurry, it's so broken, and now it's unplayable. It's still playable. If you think Master Disguise was not warranting a nerf, well, it never saw play anyways, so there's no reason to get mad about it. And it was necessary for the future of the game. I feel Blizzard is going in the right direction with this expansion by making everything more attrition-based, which means everyone will have a chance to come back at some point in time. Like, if you saw the stream that Ben Brode and Frodan did today, you would have been able to see that shaman who was at 7 life after being beat down by Frodan. And then he cleared the opponent's board with using Halazeel and Elemental Destruction. He'll back up to 30, and then played another card that stopped all of his unloaded mana crystals. And that's insane. I love that. I love that type of gameplay. Like, it actually makes you think about, okay, maybe I should save these cards so that if this happens, I will have an out. And I'll be able to win still, instead of just being like, okay, I'm at 14 health, he's going into his 9th turn, I can't do anything, I gotta hope I do not die, and then you end up dying. I don't like that type of gameplay. I like the old school, just grind it out gameplay. And it seems that Blizzard wants it. Oh, one last thing I wanted to say. I feel that Freeze Mage is going to be broken, and I really wish that they would nerf something in Freeze Mage. Though maybe with secret removal, such as Eater of Secrets, which I'm not too sure if it'll actually do very well, maybe it'll stop Freeze Mage. So there's also the wide inconsistency without being able to get Ice Block off of Mad Scientist as well. I still think they're a little bit overpowered, because the game's going to slow down quite a bit. People have been saying that mages are overpowered, and they should be nerfed as well, but they didn't get anything. But I feel Mage is in the right spot currently. They are so flexible with their stuff, and they're not broken in my opinion. Control Mages are a thing, Tempo Mages are a thing that I do not think is broken because they run out of cards very fast. And the new Kabbalist's Tomb will be too slow to see play in Tempo Mage, probably. It'll be more of a grinder mage, if you ask me. I don't think Tempo Mage will be a thing, I think it'll be more grinder mage. Yeah, but I don't think Mage is broken, in my opinion. So yeah, with that, I'm gonna leave you off to your pondering about what you think. And then I'll leave you to, telling me what you think. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.